let me turn this over to our distinguished host, Sensei Jim Bregman.
Thank you very much, Rob. I'm really looking forward to this session because this will be the epitome of mutual welfare and benefit. It is my distinct privilege to introduce Mr. Brian Money, who is a Yodon and holds an MBA. He's a detective with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department in California. He started the Riverside Youth Judo Club in 2012. The club is a charitable nonprofit with the Riverside Police Foundation. The club reaches out to at-risk and marginalized youth and has grown to over 320 USJA registered members. 100 of the students are those with special needs. Brian is the delegate of the International Special Needs Judo Union. Also, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Pedro Villa Jr., who holds a master's degree in special education and is a judo EQ. He is the club's chief behavioral therapist. He supervises and provides clinical hours for those volunteer staff members seeking certification in special needs therapy. He has been with the club since its opening in 2012. I would particularly invite all judo club instructors to pay close attention to this presentation because throughout our country, there are at-risk youth and children with special needs that need our judo to provide support and assistance for their development into happy and productive adults. And with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Mr. Brian Money.
Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you, Jim and Rob, for setting this whole thing up. We're pretty proud of what we've been accomplishing here at the Riverside Youth Judo Club. And our ultimate goal is to try to spread this as far and as wide as possible. We've had a lot of help and a lot of direction from our European friends who've been doing this for over 30 years. I could go through and name them all, but it would take me a while. But our friends in Ireland, Switzerland, Netherlands, Finland have had about, like I said, over 30 years experience in dealing with special needs judo players. And interestingly enough, they are just part of the community, meaning the special needs players are part of the judo community. It's very natural for them. We in the United States, we tend to get worried about this. We think that, oh, this is going to be a tremendous burden. We think about liability. That's what most of it, especially in California, right? Liability. Well, I'm hoping we can try to dispel a lot of those concerns. And what my friends from Europe say and what we say is once you get into this, you will get hooked. Once you start seeing the benefit, not just for your special needs players, but also for your typical players, the compassion, the understanding. It's about the purest form of judo I think there is, where you take someone and you help make life better for them, and it turns around and helps make you a better person. So as Jim stated, in about 2012, 2013, I fortunately met up with my good friend Pedro Villa and quickly realized how masterful he was in dealing with special needs folks. And we brought our very first autistic kid over, that was Felipe, right? Felipe. Yeah, Felipe. And Felipe, who's actually still with us now as an adult. And it was amazing because a person with autism, and he was very averted to touch. He didn't like to be touched. Well, what do we do in judo? That's exactly precisely what we do. We touch and we grapple. And it's really unique how judo just has this thing where it grabs onto anybody. And we not only do we have 100 special needs kids, but we have 100 at-risk kids. We have kids that have been in big trouble. I mean, pretty significant trouble. And judo has a way of helping turn them around, getting them on the right path. So really, we just teach kids here, whether they're special needs, whether they're typical, whether they've been in trouble, doesn't matter. And we all learn together. So we started off with that one kid with autism, and Pedro kind of was the one who really was the impetus behind it. And if you had to guess, Pedro, how many therapists do you think we have roughly? The lowest level, which would be like a registered behavioral technician, up to Pedro's level, which is like a supervising board certified behavioral analyst. You had to guess.
Probably right now they're coming in.
You have well over 20 real therapists on the mat. Now, here's the beauty. We're not paying anyone anything. I'm not making any money at this. Pedro isn't making money at this. He volunteers to do this. But there is mutual benefit and welfare because well, I should say facility and the place, Pedro's actually certifying them in their clinical hours on the mat. And there's a great benefit to that. We get volunteers, they get free service, clinical hours, more or less.
So the like supervisor type staff that's seeking board certification, they need a certain amount of time, like for example, working with training other people and providing therapy. And so this is like a great place for that, because at the same time you're teaching slightly older kids to help the younger kids, you're also teaching adults to work with special needs kids, because basically that's been a huge benefit here. Not only are adults helping kids, but other kids, other typically developing kids, are helping special needs kids, and that's pretty unique because it's something that probably they should be getting a lot in the schools, but unfortunately, schools have been closed for 18 months now, so they haven't been getting that anywhere. Luckily, we got to open up recently, and so they're trying to get it again here, and it's the kids are happy to be back.
Yeah, we're finding that the kids, I don't know about you guys, but the kids out here are just happy to be back in class, and parents aren't bringing them in kicking and screaming anymore,
No.
which sometimes happens.
Behavior problems are super low.
Big smiles on their faces. So if we were to just kind of go back, say you're interested in starting a special needs component to your judo club. It doesn't have to be a thing where, well, we're just going to have special needs or we're just going to have typical. I think these things blend together very naturally. We could start off with just the terminology. There's a big push now. What did we say 20 years ago, 30 years ago? We said, oh, you're handicapped, right? So that word kind of went away, but wasn't a really descriptive word. More recently, we started using the word special needs. Okay, what is special needs? Well, it just means that you need some help with your daily living activities, seeing, hearing, talking, walking, thinking, okay? We've actually been pushing to change the wording even a bit more, and we're calling it adaptive judo now. That's kind of the push. And what is adaptive judo? It's just judo that any kid or any student may need some adaptive approach. Maybe, and that could be with a typical kid too. Maybe the kid doesn't learn as quick. Maybe has a ADHD or a learning disability. Maybe the kid has difficulty seeing and needs real thick glasses. Well, these are all could be thrown into the adaptive judo kind of area. So that's what we're sort of pushing towards now. The rules. There are different rules, and why are the rules there? The rules are there for the safety of the players. Real quick, I know this is just a primer. We actually put on much more intensive classes for this where we describe this in detail. But what are some of the rules of adaptive judo? Well, no chokes, no arm bars, regardless of age. Okay, why is that? Well, and we're not, I mean, it's kind of, we never say always. We have a high level black belt, Nidan, who is on the spectrum, who's profoundly deaf, and he is a phenomenal judo player. As a matter of fact, he went to Summer Nationals, and was it Long Island or Manhattan? Or,
Yeah. New York,
and he defeated 7 typical black belts. No concession, no quarter given. He just ran right through them. Chokes, arm bars, whatever. It took years for us to get him to that point. So why do we say no chokes, no arm bars? Many of our kids have a delayed response. They may be delayed intellectually, but also further than that. I could have a kid that has autism who has 150 IQ, probably higher than all of us here. However, he will have a delayed response or a delayed reaction. So if we're on the mat, he's got someone in Kansetsuwaza or a Shimawaza choke, and the Shimpan goes, mate, it'll take him 2 or 3 extra seconds, perhaps, to realize that, okay, we need to stop. It's part of the condition of having certain special needs, disabilities, whatever you want to call it. So we have safety rules, no body slamming, no around the neck grab. So any sort of koshiguruma around the neck. Now, why would that be? Because a lot of our special needs players, specifically Down syndrome, if you any of you are familiar with Down syndrome folks, they tend to have very weak cervical areas, specifically in their neck. So we want to avoid injury. No sutemiwaza, no sacrifices, absolutely not. We just, they're too dynamic, too powerful. We break it down to levels. So we have 5 different levels of players in special needs, one being the absolute highest. So a level 1 player would be Ryoshi, who I described to you, who went to New York and defeated all the black belts in his division. All the way down to level 5. Level 5, Noemi? Yeah. So Noemi, who is behind me here, Noemi has autism spectrum disorder. She also is intellectually disabled. Probably go on and on.
Orthopedic impairment on the legs.
Yeah, she actually came to us. She could barely walk, and now she's walking pretty darn good. So we're very happy over that. But she would be considered a level 5. A level 5 player is someone who might be able to play some light level judo games. They need a lot of help. A level 4, a step up from level 5, would be someone who might be able to do some easy kind of friendly randori. You have to be very careful. Level 3 is about where it starts getting kind of real. Level 3 players can fight pretty darn good. They may need some prompting or direction. And keep in mind that during tournaments for special needs, which we host every year, we host a special needs tournament. The referees could actually talk to them. So the referee in the middle of the match could tell one of the players, hey, you ought to try Ippon Senage, or you should try Osotogari. They could say that. So that's, to being a special needs judo ref is a very unique thing. Level 2, I'm pretty sure most level 2 players could probably knock me down pretty easy. And then level 1, like I said, I mean, some of these level 1 players are just absolutely phenomenal. We were in the World Judo Games. It's like 1,000 special needs players on the mat, and they were like a special forces military team. It was unreal how acclimated and just well adjusted these students were. And they had the one guy, the level 1 player, who had a blade. He was missing his right leg, and he had a blade in place. I'm not kidding. This guy could have played in the Olympics very easily. He was phenomenal. So it's different judo than typical judo, but I think it really goes at the heart of what judo is. So we're hoping that you guys take interest in this. For me, I would say start slow. don't say, okay, we're gonna open a class of 25 adaptive or special needs players. Start off with one, start off with two, and slowly work with them. Do you need to be a therapist? I don't think so, unless you have someone who's exceptionally special needs. But what I'd like to do is have Pedro talk about maybe some of the different types of special needs we've come across, and maybe give his perspective, because he's a really expert. I'm just the butler here that handles the club. So I'm gonna let Pedro talk for a little bit.
So, like Sensei Brian was explaining, we met like back in 2012 when the club opened, and I had read a newspaper article about the club taking in several deaf players. I was like, if you can handle deaf players, you can probably handle some autistic kids. So I brought the first autistic young man to practice, and and it was good for him, and and these have formed like long-term relationships. So it isn't like these kids come for 6 months or a year and then don't come back. I mean, Felipe, he still comes. His mom comes and helps with the special needs players. So it's been like really long-term commitments with special needs players. But I think the biggest thing, from my perspective, is that the vast majority of the special needs players are mainstream. So we don't do a separate practice with them. Like they're just integrated into the regular classes. And at the same time, we're at the same time, while the special needs players are benefiting from being around typical students. The typical students are benefiting by learning empathy and learning to work with special needs players. And then we just basically we just we're all the classes are supervised. Obviously, they're senseis, they're senpais. And so the kids that have been here a long time, they know which kids have special needs, and they'll adjust their intensity according to who they're going with. When a new student comes in, we just tell them, oh, you know what, you're gonna go with Johnny. Johnny's really good. Don't hold back, or else you're gonna get dumped. We might say, oh, Bobby, let's take it a little easy on Bobby. When you pin him, probably put half your weight on him, because then if you put more than that, he's gonna panic. So we just tell the kids to adjust it that way, and they're really good about it. But yeah, for the most part, I'll be honest. Sometimes they take it too easy on them. We have to tell them, step it up. You go a little harder with them, push them farther. Yeah. So basically, it's benefited, both kids, both the special needs kids and the typically developing kids. So with the 5% of the kids that aren't able to safely participate with the typically developing peers, even with those kids, the goal is to mainstream them eventually. A big thing, with that 5% of special needs players is that, they might have an orthopedic impairment in their legs and their feet. They might not follow verbal directions, so they're learning how to do that when we're working with them separately. So, the more involved special needs players that we do pretty much like a 100% adaptive program with, we concentrate on them looking down at their feet and being aware of where their feet are, because that's the biggest thing. When a kid first joins a club, you work on falling and you work on turning. If they can't look down at their feet and be aware of where their feet are, they're never going to learn how to turn. They're never going to learn how to do a bonsanage. They're not going to learn basic osoto guard. They need to be aware of where their feet are and where their feet are supposed to go. So we do a lot of hurdles, a lot of balancing drills, and then we'll show that to you guys today. We set up the typical course we usually set up for our more orthopedically impaired players, to kind of see how it works, how we work on learning to lift your feet, to step at a certain place, to walk in a line when you're supposed to, walk more open when you need to, and so like Noemi, we've been at this. Noemi's been here like 5 years, and it was only in like the year before the pandemic hit that we were able to start actually doing throws, because before that there wasn't enough mobility, and there wasn't enough awareness of where her feet were to even try to do throws and trips. So sometimes it is a very long road to get a player to actually do, quote unquote judo, but we consider it all judo, but quote unquote judo, sometimes it might be a journey of several years, but it is worth it. At first she didn't want to come. Now she's very happy to be here. She thought so she has an aversion to dentists, and so when she saw like the white geese, she thought that everybody in here was a dentist. So she thought she was going to like a college of dentists, and they were all gonna.
I got
poke her.
slapped twice, so just so you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was like, yeah, she's like, I'm gonna get poked in front of everybody. But now she's happy to be here. She knows, everybody's here to help her, but she also knows we're here to push her. She knows we are gonna push her physical limits, and she's okay with that now. So probably the basic equipment that you're gonna see that we use, it's no more of an investment of, it's like probably an investment of like $80. It's some like soccer hurdles, it's some stepping stones, and then it's some balance buckets, and then we have a little like gymnastics little balance beam, and it's all things just to teach her to move her feet in different ways. And that's worked. So after we do the obstacle course, just to help her feet, we usually have her walk across like 2 crash pads, and then we're gonna actually do. She's gonna do practice the sotogari on me. But like I said, this is like a long journey. But to go back to what the majority of the kids are gonna go through, the 95% that can be included in a typical class, those kids, they're gonna get going way faster. So this is the most involved type student you're gonna come across.
And for me, for my part, we've had several students like Noemi. She came to us, she was barely walking. Her legs had, I don't know what you would call it,
They're
but
floating, yeah.
her feet had bowed in to a point where she literally couldn't walk. And now you're going to see when we go through the obstacle course how far she's come. And she actually does judo now. So like Pedro said, it took us a long time, but we don't care about time. It's making her life better. It's making her mom's life better, I believe, because this is a person who's becoming less and less reliant on others every day. So we've had a few kids that have come in wheelchairs.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, you think I'm kidding. I'm not. Kids that have come to us in wheelchairs, within 6 months or so, they're walking. Now, I have a theory on this, and Pedro, I don't know how you feel about it, but I get mad sometimes because I think sometimes some of the programs in schools, they're more apt to just push the kid in the corner and just let them sit there throughout the day. I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah.
But,
so for example, a lot of times, like for example, a refusal to walk could result in a kid just being placed in a wheelchair so they could get moved from place to place. And you basically have to make the like walking fun. And and then we're really good at that. Judo's a really good sport to make walking fun, to make hopping fun, to make basic foot movement fun. But sometimes schools are limited in how much they can push kids. Sometimes parents reach a breaking point where they're like, well, my kid doesn't want to walk. I'm not gonna make them walk. But mobility is a big thing. I mean, I see mobility along with the ability to drink and eat and sleep. I mean, it's if you don't get some exercise in, your health is going to decline for sure. I mean, Noemi's dropped like about 50 pounds. And that helped her feet a lot. We've had other kids who their muscle tone got so much better, by doing judo and getting out of their wheelchair and walking. So it's not only like a social benefit to them and a mental health benefit to them, but it's also a physical benefit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so what we're going to do here in a minute, we're going to run through an obstacle course with Noemi. Now, keep in mind, Noemi is a level 5 player. This is our lowest able player, if you want to call it that. So we have much higher level players. So don't think that every student that you take in is going to be like Noemi. In fact, she's more rare than most. And we're kind of hands-on here. So we'll have a nervous parent come in. Oh, my son has ASD. We're like, cool. We grab the kid, or they'll say, can he just watch today? Yeah, he can watch from the mat. We grab him when we take him on the mat. And you'd be surprised how well they adapt. And we try to mainstream them right away. So like I said, keep in mind that what you're going to see here is specifically going to be level 5 work with a level 5 player. Okay. You wanna?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna mute this this computer so it doesn't. Where the heck is it? Work with Noemi.
So let's start with the hurdles.
Okay, so you can see if you look at Noemi's feet, you can see she has a little bit of deformity in her ankles that we're overcoming. She's going through over obstacle courses. She could not do this
Oh yeah,
at all.
Before we have to use lower hurdles than this. Yeah, these are higher than the ones we started with.
And these are just very inexpensive little tools that, I mean,
from Amazon.
yeah, you could buy it very cheap.
Awesome.
Doesn't hurt the mat.
Awesome. Very good.
And you can see Pedro's using his arm. He's prompting her, helping her, guiding her so she doesn't fall. I should mention that Noemi is very strong with her upper body. So if she doesn't want to do something, it could be quite difficult.
That's fine. The balance is the hardest part. Ready?
So this is a balance beam that we use. This is really helpful because it focuses, makes her put one foot in front of the other in such a way where she isn't going to fall and hurt herself. Keep in mind that this benefits also the student to where they don't get hurt, like something as simple as a fall. So we have these big, gigantic crash pads that I stole from our police helicopter unit. They don't know they're missing, but maybe one day they will.
Good. Very good. Big step. Awesome job. Very good. Good. Awesome job. Very good. Okay. So we're gonna get a break after you throw me 2 times. Okay. All right.
So what he's doing right now is he's giving her the potential like reward. What he's going to do is he's saying if she throws him twice, then she'll get a reward. She'll get a break.
Get her grip. Grip here. All right. We're gonna step off to the side first. Remember?
We almost always use the crash pads.
Okay. Again, one more, and then we get a break on the ball or the swing. Okay, all right, get your grip. Okay, grip the sleeve. Okay, all right, step up to the side. Good. Very good, push. Good, awesome. Very good.
A little Osotogari. Are you going to throw her too? Maybe not now. Okay, no, it's okay. Yeah, you have to read your students. So if she's not, if she's ready for a break, then she's ready for a break. That's just kind of how we have to do it. Now you see Pedro's using sign language. That is not because she's hearing impaired. It's more just her ability to understand simple, more simple verbiage. So
let's go over here. And she said, "Mom."
Now what we do is when we have her, let her take a break, it seems kind of silly, but we have her sit on this ball. Now what this does is this helps with core stabilization.
Yeah, and then
balance.
also it also makes it it saves her energy for the exercises we're targeting, because her getting up off the ground, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So that's why usually in a full hour of practice, I'll only throw her 3 times,
Okay.
because it's a lot of work for her to get up. And then if she's really in a energetic mood, then we'll do a little Nawaza.
Okay. So just so you guys get to see if I can do this. I'm not much of a videographer, but you see the implements we use. These are very cheap. Nothing here. I don't think anything here costs.
Yeah, these are like
Over
these are
$100
like, these like turtle shelf steps are like $30 on Amazon. Balance buckets are like $30. These you can pick up, you know, at Big Five for like $5-10. The balance beam, that was a little pricier, maybe $50 for that one. But that one, yeah, that one we just recently started. And then everything else, like the crash pads, they're already here. You know, the stretch bands on the wall, we use those with our wheelchair kids a lot because we're able to, for example, if you have a child in a wheelchair, that's actually, you know, that's actually has no use of their legs. Like, you know, they have no hope of ever using legs. You know, we just concentrate on their upper core strength. You know, that's opposed to the kids that don't want to walk. But let's say a kid just is never going to walk. We're going to concentrate on their arms. And so, for example, you know, a kid that we you know is in a wheelchair, we'll pick them up out of the wheelchair, we'll lay them down here, and then we'll do things like, you know, teaching them to you know, lift themselves up.
So what's the benefit of them developing their core? A bunch of benefits.
Yeah, breathing.
Yeah. What if they fall out of the wheelchair?
Yeah. So yeah, the other thing we work with on kids like that is a lot of those kids, they only breathe comfortably in like one position. They might breathe comfortably in this position, on their side. And most of them, they have to actually move several times a day so they don't get wheelchair sores or bed sores. So they have to be here, they have to be here. And judo's really good for teaching kids how to roll. So a lot of times we are teaching kids how to roll. So we're teaching them to roll this way, tuck their arm under, roll, then push off, keep on rolling. Then when they turn the other way, tuck their hand under, roll, push off. So even for the kids that are never going to have use of their legs, there's things you could do with them here. And you know, there is always, you know, that liability concern. Most of the time for those types of kids, their parents are an encyclopedia for their kids' issues. They're going to tell you exactly what their limits are, what they can and can't do. And so that's what we usually go off of. Yeah, I mean, we haven't had an injury even requiring like a clinic visit with our special needs kids in, you know, 9 years.
Yeah.
And that's what the Europeans proved in their research. So the Europeans proved in their research that special needs players have a lower risk of injury than typical players. You know, that might be because we keep more of an eye on them. Other people are aware of the disability, so they think it may be a little easier on them. But I think overall, you know, I think everybody's just aware that, you know, they have to look out for their welfare. And so that's the way people approach it.
Okay. All right. We're going to go back over here and get back on the computer. So bear with me because that's the way to do it. Let's talk about liability. That's what everybody worries about, right? We have we're going to start bringing special needs players in. What if we get sued? What if they get hurt? What about HIPAA out here in California? HIPAA. That's all we hear about is, you know, I'm telling you, it's not been an issue. If a parent comes to me and says, "Hey, will you allow my kid to be in the judo class?" Should we be able to ask them, well, what is little Johnny's, does little Johnny have any special accommodations he needs? I just asked them straight out, is he on the spectrum? They're coming to us. We're not out there seeking them. So, okay. But remember that they're coming to us. So first of all, they're looking for someplace. And let me tell you guys, I get floods of calls from just desperate parents. You think it's easy to find a place that will accept your special needs kid? There aren't many places that do. But I don't think there's anything wrong when a parent comes in. I ask them straight out, you know, hey, is there anything I should know about? Well, you know, he's a little shy. Okay, that's a start. He's a little shy. We'll work on that. Does he have any language disability or issues? Okay, and you just keep asking them questions. We could do that. Why are we doing that? We're doing that for the safety of the player. We're doing it for the overall benefit of that player. The other thing is medical insurance. Almost all of my special needs kids have phenomenal medical insurance, literally phenomenal. The highest level. For us, it's Medi-Cal, Medicare, Medicaid. Okay, I mean, there's hardly even any co-payments involved in those. Would you say that's true, Pedro? That like as far as insurance goes?
Yeah. So usually, in California and a lot of other states, special needs kids, they get a waiver. So they get a Medi-Cal like type insurance just based on the disability. So they don't have to pay any co-pays or anything like that. So their healthcare is pretty well taken care of. And at least in this area, the clinics are allowed to go to and everything, they're pretty high quality. So they get real good care. But like we said before, I mean, we haven't had a kid that needed a clinic visit based on an injury they've attained here. So
and the biggest thing is just the things you probably would have to worry about more, maybe the things you aren't paying attention to. Your mat cleanliness, we're crazy about that over here. I mean, we wipe these things down with germicidal, neutral type cleaners, viricides, because I think there are times where some of our special needs folks may have lowered immune systems. They could have. We had Hannah, for example.
Yeah.
She was. I mean, if she caught anything, it would have really hurt her. So we had to go through a little bit more extra effort to make sure everything she used was very clean, the mats and such. But generally, you're going to be paying attention and watching. When do your kids get hurt or your players? Maybe when you're not paying attention, you're looking over here, and then all of a sudden you hear and it's because your players maybe got a little too rough. We don't really see that with our special needs. And you tend to be focused on them quite a bit. So again, what you saw with Noemi was probably about one of the more extreme examples of dealing with a special needs judo student. A good 90% of the people coming through your doors will have things like autism, what they call autism, but they call it a spectrum, because you could be very, very low functioning. I don't know if that's a good word, but say someone who has a 60 IQ, which would make them intellectually disabled, all the way up to geniuses. I mean, we have a couple guys, I'm like, man, I can't even talk to them because it's like, you're too smart for me. I feel dumb next to them. But even though they are very smart, and they could carry on these phenomenal conversations, their social interactions are very, very weak. And again, judo helps with that. It gives them friends. It gives them people to talk to and work around. And we've had students, especially during the shutdown, who said, hey, we just need that social contact back. So what I'd like to do is maybe give Pedro some time to talk about whatever you'd like. And
okay, here we go. So yeah, so I'll forward. These are just publications I grabbed off the Special Needs Judo Union website. But for example, this goes into the divisioning of special needs students for tournaments. I'll kind of get to the meat of it. This is your classification system, level 1 through 5. Level 1 being they can compete in a mainstream judo tournament. Level 5 being like Noemi, who we just saw today. For the most part, we're mainstreaming level 1 through 4 players. They're practicing with their typically developing peers. Level 5s, we are still doing a special class with them. If at some point they do reach that level, which we are very hopeful for, they go and join the mainstream class, because we've had several level 4 and 5 kids that couldn't be safely put in a mainstream class, and later on through work they were able to. So that's that divisioning document. So then another things that's quite useful is some of the safety stuff. So for example, like the rules for competition is, rules you would follow when just doing practice with special needs players. So as a so for example, it has examples of how to safely do nawaza between so for example, it has examples of how to safely do nawaza between with special needs players. For example, in nawaza, you aren't allowed to like push straight back. And we've seen that here where a lot of special needs players, they don't know how to tuck their ankle off to the side. Sometimes they'll just have they'll have their toes in a down position, and then they'll kind of be at risk of rolling their ankle when getting pushed back. So with those types of players, what you want them to do is get their grip, get a knee up, and turn, but never go straight back because it is dangerous for them. It goes into things like basically you're not going to work on chokes with the vast majority of special needs players. It is dangerous. The experience we've had with that is we're like, well, this student, maybe they could try it, see how it goes. So for example, some special needs players, they'll apply an armbar to you, and then when you tap, they don't react right away. So you get an extra second of somebody torquing an armbar. It's not going to feel good. So we try to avoid those types of things. Then there's some behavioral tools. So for example, let's see. If we have a student that did have some behaviors, and we kind of have to review those behaviors, we try to review their behavior, and with something like this is like a good visual aid for kids with like autism or other developmental disabilities. Lately, I'll be honest, we haven't had to use this type of aid very much because the kids are so happy to be back. So we're just giving kids, we're giving the special needs kids the discipline that the rest of the kids get. So if for example, if a kid that's not following instructions gets push-ups or sit-ups, the special needs players get push-ups and sit-ups. But in the past, when we've had kids that have had some mild to moderate behavioral issues here, we go through something like this. So basically, if a kid has just had a long day and is tired, we try to explain to them, it seems like you're in the blue zone. You seem kind of sad, sick, tired. The next time you go through this behavior, let's do this. And then the big thing with this, if they're in the blue zone, which is like kind of more on the tired side, or the red zone where they're they might reach out and like slap a peer, is that we want them to realize how their behavior has affected their peers. So usually after you review this, you review a affected taking sheet that looks like this. So in a document like this, in a sheet like this, we just have the kid kind of fill it out for them. They just kind of verbally respond, what zone were you in? They'd say, let's say they reached out and slapped one of their peers while doing the waza. We'll say, you kind of went to the red zone. You lost control. You were angry. And then, we might say, your peer, like let's say the peer's name is Johnny. How do you think, Johnny's parents might feel? How would his dad feel? How would his mom feel? When they saw you do that, they probably felt angry. They probably felt sad. What might they be thinking? And we'll tell them things like, for example, the kids here invite each other to their birthday parties. After you hit, Johnny across the face, do you think they're gonna want to, invite you to their birthday party? Probably not. Probably the mom and the dad, they don't want to invite you over to their house. Then, we try to include, coaches and therapists. We might say, what do you think Sensei Brian might say after he did that? He might say, we might have to, put, put you in the beginner class, back in the beginner class. You know, Senpai Pedro might say, you need a consequence. You're probably gonna maybe sit in timeout for a while. You might get sit-ups, you might get push-ups. So that perspective taking, it's a foundation of like that mutual benefit and welfare. If they don't know how their behavior is affecting their peer, then they're never gonna get to that point. So this is a good like document to use, a good tool to use with the special needs kids, the ones that are able to verbally respond and understand verbal instructions. So I'll forward that, and then hopefully it could be shared with everybody. Some other things I'll probably share is like this is an important one. I'll just go over this one and then we'll probably go to questions.
Sure.
We were going over how much help your special needs players might need, and depending on the level of player you get, you might get players, high functioning autistic players that only need indirect or verbal prompts. So you might have to just kind of like be close to them, and they'll be aware, and they'll try harder. Some of them, so for example, when you give a group instruction, you'll give it to everybody, but you'll just kind of be closer to the special needs players. That'd be like an indirect verbal prompt, like a group prompt. Direct verbal prompt is you say, to your autistic student named Johnny, Johnny, let's try harder. And if you try harder for the next 5 minutes, you're gonna get to swing, you're gonna get to sit on the ball and just observe for a little bit, some type of reward. Sometimes you'll need visual prompts. So sometimes you will need those tools I just showed about, like the zones of regulation system, blue being sick, green being in the perfect zone, yellow is escalating, red is already over the top. You might need some type of visual prompt like that. So if the kid starts to escalate, you go to them, say, you know what, you're kind of hitting the yellow zone right now. Let's try to get back to the green zone. How can I help you get back to the green zone? Proximity prompt, just making everything a little easier to access. So if Johnny's working for the swing, or sitting on the ball and bouncing on the ball for a few minutes as a reward, you might put the ball real close to them just to show them, you know what, as soon as you do these next 5 ball drills, you're gonna get your break on the ball. A gesture prompt, that'd be just pointing. So for example, Noemi, who was here earlier, you do have to point a lot with her. Her vocabulary her receptively and expressively is probably like 50 words or signs. So if you say, even turn around, she doesn't understand the concept of turn around. Once you demonstrate it, if you show her, she'll understand. If you say do this and you turn around, she'll understand that. Let's say she wasn't able to copy that movement, you'd go to like a partial physical prompt. We'd probably take her by the hands and show her we're gonna turn around and physically move her. And that's if you're only using like just a small amount of force. But then let's say you get a player who's still doesn't have the strength, for example, to be on their back and roll to their stomach. A full physical prompt would be helping them, giving them using a sufficient amount of force, for example, to turn them from their back to their stomach. So this is kind of how we classify how much help we're giving the kids. Verbal prompts, physical prompts, what level of physical prompts. Sometimes you need those visual prompts, like those tools I showed earlier. So I'll forward all of these, and hopefully everybody can get them, and then we could use these. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm gonna put my my cell phone number in the chat, if that's okay. You guys feel free to call me. It's any questions you have, feel free to reach out. And I'd be happy to answer your questions. So I think we were gonna open it up to questions at this point. So
So we're gonna see if anybody has any specific questions they'd like to have answered on any of this. We know it's very down and dirty and quick, and there's an entire world of this. Trust me, we've only touched the surface here. I just started doing special needs kata, nage no kata. It's adapted, and I'm learning stuff. If we can get through it, it'll be the first time ever that a special needs adapted kata has ever been done here in the United States. There's Special Olympics judo, special needs judo through the Special Needs Judo Union's a little bit different. There are a little bit different rules, but that's another conversation for another day. This is a whole completely new world to judo, and I love it, and I think everyone else will if you give it a chance. So does anyone have any questions at all on any of the stuff we covered?
Yes, is it possible to find a URL for the Special Needs Judo Union?
yes,
We could
Yeah.
put in the chat for people?
yeah. I mean,
What did you-
the link to the Special
Oh,
Needs
yeah,
Judo Unit.
yeah. So just so you guys know, these are dear friends of ours. Pretty much everybody over there is amazing. We have Tycho van der Werf in the Netherlands, James Mulroy in Ireland, Celia Evenblige in Switzerland. Thomas Rundquist from Netherlands, and they're phenomenal human beings, and their judo is impeccable. So we certainly encourage folks to reach out to them. They are the true experts.
Excellent. Are there any other questions that anyone has?
If there are no questions, I will just say that myself, even though I'm kind of, I'm not an expert in any way. I just kind of, like I said, I kind of keep the big ball rolling over here. But Pedro, as soon as I could get a hold of the Pope, I'm going to talk to the Pope about getting him beatified, because the guy is absolutely amazing. He will always answer questions. He's always been helpful, no matter who it is. So if you have questions or concerns, you could go through me. And obviously, I'm going to go to Pedro. But we really want this to be successful. The one thing I will discourage is I've seen a few clubs out here, a BJJ club that opened up, and they open up and they say, oh yeah, we're going to start a autistic BJJ club. Well, I'm concerned over what they're going to do. Are they going to be doing arm bars, chokes, things like that? So we're a little concerned. We want to make sure that everyone does this safely, because we don't want anyone to get hurt. But that's something for another day, I guess. Anything else?
I want to thank you very, very much for your presentation, Pedro and Brian. It is an excellent idea and a much needed function. To add to our judo community, I'm not sure that the broader judo community is fully cognizant of these activities. I think we need to make them aware of the fact that the Special Needs Judo Union exists. I'm not sure many people know that. And I would encourage you to do the work that you're doing. I am really proud of you both and proud of your students. I think that mutual welfare and benefit is the underlying social fabric of humanity, and I think Kano got that right. I once told a Washington Post reporter who asked me, how does it feel to be famous? And I told him, fame is a very ephemeral thing, and so are the medals that are won and the glory that comes with being a high-level international athlete. That's not the purpose in my opinion. The purpose is to pass it forward and to help all members of our community gain full function and provide a happy and productive environment for them to prosper. And if we have that as our basic fundamentals, which you gentlemen and your dojo exemplify, then I think we heal the world in a way that is really necessary. So again, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Rob, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, thank you, Sensei Bregman. Jim, that was excellent. Brian and Pedro, thank you for your time and effort into this.
Enjoy your evening and give our regards to the entire judo world. Thank you.
We will. Thank you. Thank you, Sensei.
Take care.
Thank you.